I'm Natalie, welcome back to Hertford Golf Club and a brand new video on my channel. This one is one that I've wanted to cover for quite a while, as it's the most common mistake that I see with loads of golfers that come in the gym for some coaching. It's a physical error that you probably don't even know that you do or that you don't do. But if you can't get this right, it has a real impact on the technique of your golf swing and how far you can hit the golf ball. So let's have a look. So the mistake I'm talking about is the inability to move your pelvis effectively. Now that might seem totally random because as golfers we often talk about hip turn, we don't really talk about the pelvis. But if you're not sure, the pelvis is obviously the big block bone here that's attached to your rib cage that your legs come into. And as golfers, it's really important because it has a lot of global movements. And what that means is it moves as one, and it can also move in isolation in different angles as well, which is the reason why I've got a prop, which I'll show you in a second. Now, in order to maintain posture as golfers, we have to be able to create tilts and tucks with our pelvis, which if you've never come across this before, this is not going to mean anything to you, but it's really important and I'm going to show you exactly how. Let's hope this works because I'm not very good at the old alignment stick through the belt loops, as you can tell. So, I'm in first time, that's a winner. Okay. This is a little bit of a prop. It'll give you a guideline and show you exactly how your pelvis works in terms of angles in the golf swing. Now, these angles are really important because the closer you can get to them, the more likely you are to remain in posture. So stay on spinal angle, and therefore the better the rotation you can create and the more speed you get as a result of that. So if I set myself up, I'm facing you here. Let's say I was hitting out to the range this way. Now, as I make my regular backswing position, what you should see is that the red end of the stick here is slightly lower than the black end of the stick here. So that's me creating or finishing my backswing position. And the reason why this end is lower and this end is higher is because my pelvis has tilted. So we call this anterior tilt, as in the pelvis has dumped itself forwards. So if you think that was my start position, they're pretty level to the ground, parallel to the floor. As I rotate my hips into the backswing, we get this tilting of the pelvis going this way. So a good analogy and the easiest way to think about it is if your pelvis was a bucket of water, in the backswing, you throw the water onto the floor like this. And that is essentially what gives you this angle here through the hips. Now, if you can create that angle effectively, you will load the right hip joint, the bone will come into the socket, aka you will make an effective hip turn in the backswing, and we'll be able to get the golf club somewhere near up at the top of the backswing without having to lift and change spinal angle or sway off the ball this way. So really important, there's your backswing turn. Now, as we're in our backswing, obviously we're coming into the downswing. So as I would have my golf club up here, as I start to transition and move, separate this lead hip away, for a split second, I'm going to be roughly square again where I started. And as I come into impact and I start to clear the hips or get this lead hip posted and nice and straight, you should see we now have the opposite angle, as in the red end of the stick is now higher than the black end of the stick. And that is because my pelvis has tucked, or what we call a posterior tilt, which is essentially the pelvis coming back underneath itself closer to the body. So if the pelvis was a bucket of water in this position, we would have thrown the water on ourselves, coming through impact. And again, what that allows you to do is really load this lead hip here, so you can get the thigh bone into the socket for a true rotation. It means that you can maintain side bend through impact, so you can get that lag coming in towards the ball here. And also at those points of contact, that's where we're getting our speed, because we're not coming up and out of the ball if we early extended. If we excessively laterally swayed or buckled, again, we're on that wrong angle of the pelvis here. It's not gone the other way. And again, what we see for a lot of seniors is just that inability to sort of maintain balance and stability, where we would come through and fall forwards. So the angles of your pelvis is absolutely vital to being able to create a consistent, a strong, and a technically sound golf swing. Next up in the video, I know this is a long one, sorry, is a really quick exercise that you can do to create a tilt and a tuck effectively. So, real quick exercise you can have a bash at to get your pelvis moving effectively. Hopefully the sun's going to do one in a second because I'm squinting towards the camera, so I apologise. But just using my jacket to lean on because the mat's a bit rough. Down, one knee, 90-90 as we do for a lot of drills on this channel. Now, I'm going to use my hands on both of my hip bones here to guide me in this exercise, particularly if you've never done this before. This will help you feel the sensation for both a tilt and a tuck. So we want to start neutral, which is basically the pelvis in neither direction. So I should be roughly straight through my spine here and through my butt. The first movement is always a tilt or water to the floor because that is the backswing position. So we always throw the water on the floor first and then we throw the water on us second. So hands on hips. I'm going to actually physically move my pelvis forwards like this. So this is the anterior tilt position of the pelvis. Should get a little dip or a bit of a duck butt here in the lower back. And my left fingertips here in the hips will get trapped where my pelvis has moved itself forwards and my ribs will poke out a little bit. Then from here, what we're going to do is tuck the pelvis as far under as you feel you can using the hands. Now I've got a much straighter leg running up this right hand side. I've got a stretch through the quad and the hip flexor, and I've had that feeling of throwing the water on me this way. Again, you're going to hold this for roughly 5 seconds or so, and we're just going to try to flow from one to the next. So I'll go into the tilt, throw the water on the floor through the pelvis, hold it there a couple of seconds, come to the tuck, throw the water back onto you like this. And we just look to aim to do roughly sort of 5 to 10 reps in either direction, making sure that it's smooth and it's controlled and there's an obvious difference between tilt and tuck. Now, crucially, one of the biggest mistakes people make with this is moving the upper body too much. We've got to think that this is only the pelvis working in isolation, away from the legs and away from the upper body. So what I see is when people start to tilt like this, they lean forwards and they stick their butt back. So the chest is getting closer to the knee here, whereas when you're doing it naturally or independently, the chest will remain high, but the ribs will flare out. Same goes for the tuck in that people will try and tuck, but lean back with the upper body. So you want to try and really avoid those two errors with this exercise. I'd be aiming to do both legs on this, so we're moving both the right and the left-hand side of the pelvis, really slowly under control. Quality is better than quantity at this point in time. And make sure that you take your time. Feel or try to get a sensation for what you feel is moving within the body. Once you've done this exercise, come back to hitting a few balls, see how your pelvis feels, and work that into your golf swing. This video is sponsored by GX Golf Gloves. Awesome quality gloves at way cheaper prices, very affordable for the club golfer. If you want that quality but you don't want to pay silly prices, take a look at the GX website and use my code PRO10 for 10% off. Hopefully that's shed a little bit of light as to why you might be struggling with hip turn in the golf swing or errors coming into impact. It's all about moving the pelvis effectively. That'll help you maintain posture, be consistent with your strike, avoid any lower back injuries, crucially, and also hit the golf club further. Because if you start to get rotating, you increase speed, and therefore we're likely to hit driver longer off the tee. And let's be honest, we all want a bit of that, including me. I definitely need some more yards as well. Thanks again for joining me on this video. Thumbs up button if you liked it or you feel that this is useful. If you're new here, subscribe. Loads of content, loads of playlists, all in different topics, so lots of exercises you can take a look at. And share with your golfing mates. You never know, they might need some of this help as well. See you next time with a brand new video.